Mm. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you, friends. Hope you have a great Sunday morning. And we're gonna try to code something new today, something I haven't done in my dozens of streams that I've did. So let me know if the video and the sounds are fine, and we can get started. We can get started right away. So meanwhile, I'm gonna put up the chat and things like that on a screen for the best experience. Here's the chat. All right. All right. Hello, everybody. Well, I'm moderately good. Moderately good. So what are we going to do today? Let's go straight to business, actually. And then I'm going to open up the code editor and we're going to start coding. Hello from China. Hello to China, I mean. All right, I'm going to switch the screen. So what are we going to do today? There's a really cool agency out there called 14 Islands. All of their websites are pretty cool. I think you might have heard about them when they did this blob mixer, which is like really cool animation where you could customize these blobs with different gradients and distortions and things like that. But overall, it's just another cool studio. And the animation that took my attention is actually quite simple. It's only in the footer of their website, but I happen to like these kinds of animation and like this watercolor thing. I just love it. It's not a full-blown fluid animation, which is kind of complicated to create like just in one stream, right? But it's a really cool animation from my point of view, and this is what we're going to create today. And without further ado, let's get started. I'm gonna create the folder. I'm gonna call this water. Oh, let's just call it water. I'm gonna get my usual template, which you can find in any of my demos, basically using the same one with, I don't know, minor additions. And you can find it on my Patreon, you can find it on my demos, everywhere. All right. And it's really agnostic, so it doesn't assume anything. It's just a basic three.js template. All right. Desktop, water. Open the editor, do the npm install. What the heck? Why are you dying, my friend? What the hell happened? Actually gotta go to the hospital myself with the injury. Well, I hope it's not like the final dying, just, you know, a little bit dying like all of us. And mpx, right, so let's start. Well, if you don't mind the black humor, I gotta finish my stream fast so you can see the result. Well, I hope you'll be fine. I know the COVID, it really strikes hard. I had it in January, like a couple of months ago. It was really tough. I struggled almost for a month. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope it's gonna get better. All right. Let's arrange the windows. Oh yeah, this time it worked like a charm. So the windows are arranged. And yeah, so now I see my usual template, just the plain. Just the plain. All right. I'm gonna remove this sidebar from here. You can see the chat. So where do we start with this one? Well, obviously this will require us to use some render targets, unlike a lot of them. So first of all, I'm gonna create some scene where I just black and white scene. So let's do it step by step. I'm gonna go to the app.js and where do I start? I'm gonna call this one setup no. These mouse events. Let's first create something following the mouse. Mouse events. And yeah, three.js raycaster. Yeah, man, jokes aside, I really hope you're gonna get better. And well, I'm kind of flattered that even in this situation you're still watching the stream. So I hope it gets better. Right, raycaster and the pointer. So we got the raycaster object in here. Hello to Ivory Coast. Wow, I think this is the first time somebody, or is it, from the Ivory Coast? Wish I could travel there someday. So yeah, so we get the mouse move event. I think I can make it bigger so it's easy to see. Yeah, I realized that. Whoa. I'll just message me on the Discord, like how is it going? I think everybody would be interested. Yeah, well, me in the first place. So and then I gotta get this raycasting thing here. I mean, with this perspective, like all the other problems are really fading out, I guess. So it's gonna be this raycaster, and then I gotta get the intersects of the object, and then if we get the intersections, I'm gonna console log the intersect. But then not the scene children, but this raycast plane. Let's create raycast plane. It's like a really big plane, mesh basic material. I'm not even gonna add this plane to my... And I'm gonna add the dummy object. Dummy, it's gonna be new. Mesh. Sphere geometry. Just a small ball following the mouse. This is what I want. So I really don't need the transparency in this case. So I'm gonna do the alpha false on this one. I also kind of don't need the color, so I can get it, set it black. And then this dummy, I can actually add this dummy. So it's pretty big. It's also green. I'm gonna make it small and white. I will also remove the existing plane. So far we're just getting the setup, just the basic setup of the scene, which we will use now. So intersects are already working. It's gonna be this and point and this. Do I actually need pointer position? But anyway, I think I can just straight copy this dummy position, copy this one. Right, so we got the following mouse object, which is not really complicated in three.js. Right now, I'm all the time trying to compare like the three.js thing and the like React Free Fiber and how much more complicated some stuff are in three.js compared to the React Free Fiber. But this one, I don't think it's really all that complicated compared to the React, to be honest. So then I'll need to set up my pipeline. So I will need a couple of render targets, things like that, a couple of different scenes. So let's set up pipeline. I don't really have this function yet. It's going to be like the main function that I will be using in here. So where do we start here? So first of all, I want kind of the source target scene, right? So I want something to be rendered into the source target, which is going to be, yeah, just basically full screen render target. And then I need another scene where I will be running my like frame buffer output shader. And for this, like this this FBO scene, gonna be just the scene. The FBO camera is going to be just the orthographic camera. Then this one, I'm gonna be using diffuse texture, which is using the source target texture, resolution, this with this height 1, and this one's gotta be fragment FBO because I already have the fragment here, so I need the fragment FBO. Basically, let's call it just FBO. Fragment FBO. And then in here, duplicate FBO JLSL and diffuse. And in here, well, I gotta be using this color equals Guten Morgen schon. Okay, so far we're just basically sampling the texture in my frame buffer output scene and nothing else. So let's go ahead. We got the setup material. I have to set up the quad, FBO quad, which is going to be the mesh. Using that material, it's exactly 2x2, so it fits the full screen for this camera, which is the most important thing here. So it's -1 means 2. I gotta add it to the scene. So FBO scene, add the quad. What else? I think it's kind of ready. So we can try to plane buffer geometry. Yeah, the Copilot's still using the old three.js API. So right now I'm only seeing the default scene. But what if I set it rendering to the source target? Means I'm not gonna see anything now, just the white screen. And then render target null, and then render the FBO scene with the FBO camera. And well, surprise, I'm gonna see kind of the same thing, except right now, let's just multiply it with something small. Yeah, you could see that we are actually using this shader right now to output the scene. So it's not the scene anymore, it's just the plane with the shader material in front of us, which is using the previous scene as a texture. So what's next? I actually need another render call to make this setup work, because this one I will be only using for the calculations, basically. It's like a frame buffer, like a pin pawn texture. This is what I'm going to be using this for. And then I'll need the final scene, which I will be just rendering it, just outputting it to the screen. So let's set up the final scene, which is going to be the final scene. Final camera, well, the Copilot tries to create another camera, but it's basically the same camera. I will be reusing the same camera. So then the final quad. I can just use the basic mesh basic material. Mesh basic material and use some texture. Well, Copilot tries to tell me that I should be using this texture. I'm just gonna set up a null here, and then I'm gonna add this to the scene. And well, this is all we need actually. So we created this scene, just the scene to output some texture. I don't even need to like do something with this texture. It's just the basic material in here. Hello to Zagreb. I'm not using parcel and white together. I actually have like the config, just a leftover config, because I used to use parcel a lot, but then I switched to white and then Vit. And then now from time to time I actually use parcel because of some edge cases which Vit couldn't handle. But mostly I use just Vit. All right, and then what else do I need? So I can actually set up this pipeline. Well, nothing fancy is going to change on the screen, but we will be seeing something. Because right now, I want this to run the render loop on the same texture, like update the same texture on each step. And this means I need to create two targets. This is going to be the render target, and target B is going to be the render target. So in here, So right now I'm not actually doing any calculations, but I'm kind of setting up the pipeline so I can update it then. So in here, I'm gonna render this one to the target A. And then I have to use the target B on this material. Like this material, if you think, this source target shouldn't be the source target really. It should be like the, well, you can just set up a null here, and then FBO material, uniforms, it's gonna be the target B texture. So the trick here is that we're kind of using the same texture, but we will swap them later on. So I also believe we should be using the same thing here. Well, if I set it here, I could just use the same variable here because we are rendering it here, and then we're setting up for the next render call this one. All right, so let's arrange it all. Okay, so first of all, this is actually a mistake. This is the first. This is the source target. So rendering the source in here. This one goes here. Then running the pin pawn thing, and then the final output. Final output, which is gonna be yeah, final scene. But then I also need to set render target to renderer, yeah, to the null. Right, so this one is not going to be null anymore. It's a bit messy, right? But bear with me for a little. So first of all, we are just rendering this black and white scene where with the white ball. So black background, white ball. And I'm getting it to the source target. The next thing I'm basically just creating the black and white texture. So the next thing I'm running the frame buffer output on the same texture. And then I'm swapping it. So it's kind of running on the same texture. So I'm running the FBO shader material in here and rendering the target A. On the next step, it's going to be target B and so forth. And then finally, I have to output, and I have to set what I'm actually outputting. So it's going to be final quad material map, one of those textures, right? So one of them I'm actually rendering to the scene, and one I have to output. Which one though I have to output in there? Maybe I could just set it one time. I could just set the target A all the time in here and be done with it, probably. Because it's going to be switched on each step, and it's going to be the actual render target that I need to be seen here. So I don't have any errors in here, but I don't see anything. All right, so now I gotta fix it all so I can see the same black and white texture in here. So first of all, I'm gonna kind of test those steps. So this is now, for some reason, this has got to be the source here, right? So I'm kind of going ahead of myself. This frame buffer output thing will be using two textures. One of them is source, and the other one is the one running on the background. So right now I'm only using one. So I'm gonna do this. Works fine. And then I'm gonna test the final output. So it's gonna be this target A. Yeah, it's the same. So we are running 3 render calls just to see the white ball on the screen. I know this sounds crazy, but it's really important to set up the proper thing in here. So now I will start adding the magic things. So here, let's add the previous kind of texture, which will be running on the background here. And this one will be using finally the actual target A. The previous, so it's kind of the previous render from this texture. And this is going to be the target A texture. So see, if I set it to target B, I should get the frame buffer output error here. I'm not really getting it yet, right? Because I'm probably not using the texture. All right, so let's use it. I have the tprev, I have the tdifuse. Tprev. So the prev step is going to be tprev. And then in here, I'm going to add tcolor plus prev. And now you could see that we're kind of starting to see the all the previous render steps. They're just staying on the screen. Kind of a simple drawing app being made. And right now, because I'm using both of those textures, if I just mess up a little bit, I should have the the frame buffer error because I'm using the same texture. Yeah. See the feedback loop formed between the frame buffer and the active texture. And this is usually the thing that you're gonna get if you mess up this pipeline just a little bit, right? So even if I just move this line before the pin-pon loop, I'm gonna also get this error because then I should use the target B in here, right? So it's really important to understand like what is happening in here. So we're using two textures and use them at the same time. Now, if I just multiply one of them, like let's say I'm gonna multiply the this one with 0.9. No, it's the other one actually. Yeah, I always confuse it, you know. So we're gonna get some kind of like the path thing happening in here. So just you could see there's the leftovers in here, which is I think due to the precision thing. So it doesn't go all the way back to 0 really. So the next step that I want to create, if you look back at the actual footer in here, which doesn't work on this width of the screen, it actually has the white background, right? You could see that it's white. So I'm going to create a really small white scene just to create the initial texture. I could just use an image here, but it doesn't really matter. So this white scene is going to be equal scene, this white camera. I don't actually need white camera. This white background, just create some kind of plane, really big plane. And also need to, yeah, like -1 would be enough. And then let's suggest some small white, non-white object. So I don't know, box. I just need some color in the center of the white screen, basically. That's what I want here. So it's 1 by 1. All right, and let's make it green. And let's add this white scene, this box. All right. So what I want to do here is actually to create this thing white and to test this in white. I need something colorful on the white background on my first frame. And to do this, I'm gonna fill the first. I'm gonna just create also another render target. Basically, let's just do this. This white. Gonna be just another webgl render target. I'm gonna fill this white target with the with this white thing. So in my pipeline, like, I don't know, somewhere here, gonna be white target, and then I'm gonna render the white. And let's just test what does this actually output us. So I'm gonna comment this. I'm gonna do here null. Yeah, so it got us the box. I think I'd rather make this box a little bit smaller, which is somewhere here. Yeah, let's make it just a green box on the white background. Right, we got it. So this white render target texture is working. So for the first frame of my animation, I want to put this like white target instead of this if for this variable, right? So it starts with white background. Okay, let's do this. Okay, we're back to the pipeline. And now in here, I'm gonna set it to the white target. I think it's actually possible to maybe avoid the black scene altogether and just render it white. But anyway, let's... Yeah, so it's gonna be the white target texture, which is gonna be used for the tpref here. If I now output this tpref here, it's just the pref. I'll probably not see it at all because it's been overwritten by the other. So what we're building is the footer for the 14 islands, this effect. And, oops, it's just some random form. Where was I? Okay, here. Right. So, what I would like to do now... pref. So I should be seeing actually the white thing, right? If I just output it, why don't I see it? This whole thing is a bit like these type of animations are a bit confusing because you have to keep your mind on a lot of textures that are being updated at the same time. So right now we are outputting target A. In here, we are setting both of the textures, the T-diffuse we updated and the T-pref we are updating with the target A texture. White is right. What do we mean by that actually? So I want to see the pref. I want to see the white texture in here. And I set the white target in here. Where do I... Okay, I have to bring back and I have to put it... This doesn't need to be there, but this doesn't need to be here. Right? This is how it should be. And now we immediately see, because I just moved this declaration to the bottom. All right, now the crucial steps begin, like the real magic. So this is the pref texture, and I could actually multiply it with something like... And it should be fading out slowly, right? Because we are like preserving the this target and slowly fading it out. So maybe, yeah, it's gonna fade out fast. Right. So we are here. We have the color, which is kind of the mouse movement. Like this is the mouse movement. And this is just the thing, the previous frame, which we updated in some way. Right. So now the real magic begins. First of all, I want the FBM noise. So I had a snippet here, just saved. This is one of the basic functions, but I just saved it, so I'm not gonna look for it. It even has the comment. It's from Evan Lee actually, and check Evan Lee out. He's a really cool developer, and I would say an artist. And so I'm gonna leave this comment here. Now we have the FBM here. It's using the octaves and then the two-dimensional thing in here. So what I would like to do first to check the actual output of this thing. So it's going to be FBM, and then I have to use the VUV. Copilot already tries to tell me like which values to use. I think this was the value. For this, it's got to be the float value, really. Yeah, so this is how the function output looks like, actually. It's just the noise. But noises could be different, right? This one looks particularly like this. So if I this 40, doesn't really change anything. Oh yeah, now we see. So it's amount of the computations. Oh, it's integer. It's just more layers of details, right? I think 4 was enough. And then, yeah, it's just a loop here on the octaves. You could actually see it on my screen. So it's just basically the computational complexity of this thing. Right. We have the displacement. I kind of wanted to make it two-dimensional displacement because I will be using this displacement to, well, actually displace things. And aspect is gonna be... Well, actually, my aspect ratio on the screen currently is basically 1 because I have the squarish screen in here. What is the error here, by the way? Displacement, FBM. No matching overloaded function. Why is that? It's well, just worked for me. Why doesn't it work anymore? So it's VUV multiplied by 22. I have the VUV. Oh, it's not float, it's integer, right? It's just like an instinct now. Every number without a dot in GLSL should have a dot. Right. Right. So, okay, we have this FBM noise. I also, like these values are between 0 and 1. I would like them to be like really small. So I will make this thing two-dimensional, I think, because I will be using this as a speed for my color to progress through the screen. So I will multiply this one with the aspect, which is basically almost 1 in 1 two-dimensional vector, but this will make this thing two-dimensional. And yeah, now to output this, I would need to do this. What is wrong now? Okay, it's 2 commas. Yeah, so now it's yellow because it has 2 values in there, and also multiply it with something. I believe this was a really small number. So we can forget about this thing for a second. It's just almost black, but it's something. Yeah, I mean, in some streams I actually got stuck and I never fixed it during the stream, and it's so depressing. But then it is actually, while I myself was watching some of the other developers developing something, when they do make errors, it actually you finally feel better yourself. Like, oh my god, he also does this error, does this mistake, does this dumb mistakes. You can spend hours just looking for a simple dumb thing, and then it makes you feel so much better. So I hope it makes you feel better as well. I mean, isn't it the life? All right, so let's get back to magic. We are like on the right track, almost there, but not quite. So yeah, we have this. Right, now I can displace this image and preserve this picture. So I want some kind of like jump flooding algorithm to implement here. So I'm gonna create a couple of like text cells. Let's call them text cells. Text cell 2. Let's the first text cell is gonna be just the like tprev, the default value. Even though it's kind of second sample, I'm just gonna preserve the naming, so we have the same thing here. So text cell 2. What is gonna be the text cell 2? It's gonna be the displaced value, right? So here I'm gonna add the disp value. But then why? So was it like that? So I think I would need to like only progress it upwards or sideways, like vertically or horizontally. So this is gonna be plus disp(x). Texel 3 is going to be minus disp(x). 4 is going to be plus displacement y and minus displacement y. I think this is it. This is what I wanted, right? And then 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 textures right now, and I have to combine them in a way, because all of those textures are just the displacement image. So I can actually even output it, and you could see what's happening here. It's actually kind of nice thing, right? Starting to see where all of this is going to. But then Texel 2 moves to the left, but Texel 3 moves to the right. But then if we combine them all, and how do you combine them all? Well, depending on the color scheme of your scene, there are a couple of ways. Because we have the white background and thing, basically what we need to do is take the minimum, because the white is always the maximum. It's just the 1, 1, 1, right? This is the maximum the color could get. Well, I mean, theoretically, I would say, or practically. And what I need to do here is to take the minimum or just the blending function. And the blending function that takes the minimum of the both colors, like preserving the white background, but also preserving the color, is actually, I have it on my snippets, is a blend darken function, which, if you look closer, what it does actually does the minimum. Well, in the simplest case, it does the minimum, and in the more complicated sense, it also using the opacity function for the three-dimensional things. So it kind of blends between, like, if the opacity is 1, we basically get the blend darken. But if the opacity is 0, we get the base color. So it kind of blends towards the base color. So in the simplest case, it's the same as this blend darken, just the minimum of the red channel, minimum of the green channel, and minimum of the blue pad channel. But in the more complicated case, it actually blends towards the background. And the background could be like white, right? And let's just... I'm gonna write all of them. Hey, nice to read such a pleasant comment. Any tip for someone like me who is just starting out learning WebGL? Well, just try a lot of things. Just try to do things. There's no way you could learn anything just by reading and watching videos. You have to get your hands dirty. So in here, I'm gonna, let's do something like this. So the, how do I call it? Fluid color. So fluid color is gonna be, let's set it to this Texel RGB, because this function, the blend darken, takes three-dimensional things. So fluid color is this, and then I will just override this flat color. It's not fluid color, it's actually flat color, right? I have to work on my English. So it's going to be the blend darken towards the second Texel, and then towards the third Texel, fourth Texel, fifth Texel, and then I can output the flat color here. And you could see what's happening. It's actually already kind of nice thing, right? Kind of filling the whole screen. And actually, maybe if I multiply this one by 10, you could see what's happening if the aspect ratio is wrong. So it's not going to be equally flooding the whole screen if the aspect ratio is going to be off. But in our case, it's actually a square screen, and I'll also do calculate this aspect ratio, so it's fine. So now on to the next step. We created the flood. We are not yet using the interactivity, which is stored in this tDiffuse color. We only used like this previous step, starting with that like white scene with a green box in the center. So what are we going to do next? So then I want this thing not to go actually all the way. I want it to stop at some point. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know. Actually, we changed the like, we used to be GMT plus 2 yesterday. I mean Ukraine, but today we actually GMT plus 3, because overnight we like you know, changing the clocks here. So I was also confused myself, like how would YouTube handle that? But it seems to be handling it correctly. So, okay. I will kind of want to create the watercolor effect. And this one is going to be also blend darken. For this one, I will be using the previous color, which I already have, with the flat color. And so it means on every step, I'm gonna be like, right now, nothing stops this color. It just floods the whole screen. But with this one, I'm gonna be slowly fading out the thing. And which value is gonna be here? Maybe something like this. So for now, it doesn't yet work. And what I want to add here is to like fade out this color. So this flat color needs to become a little bit lighter. So I'm going to multiply it with something more greater than 1, right? So it's just going to be, I don't know, 0.2, something like this. And oh, I'm actually outputting the flat color for now. I need to output the watercolor now. And you can see now it's not actually, I mean, it slows down, right? And it fades, right? Now it's stabilized. So it actually faded into some kind of, I don't know, blob on the screen. And you can actually control this process with this coefficient. So the more this value is, the faster it's gonna stop. And also this fading coefficient basically fades it towards the original color. So it's, I don't know, say 0.9. You could see it flooding a lot more than it should be. And if 0.1, it's, well, barely flooding. It's just a little bit. This is really important because, you know, this is kind of really specific effect we are creating here. But then if you know the idea behind it, if you know how like all these pixel flooding things are working, you can actually do like anything, right? So you could create some watercolor effects based on this. I could imagine like having the black and white picture and then putting a couple of colorful blobs and then just a little bit like flatten it, just a little bit, not this, but this, just a little bit flatten them, and you kind of get the watercolor effect. Maybe a paper texture then to add some kind of to texturize this color, and well, you're done with it. All right, so we created the watercolor effect. Now what we need to do, I want my mouse to be followed by this watercolor effect, and I want it to fade out constantly. Because right now it doesn't really fade out, so it stays as a blob on the screen. So it's not actually also the fluid simulation, but it is how the fluid simulations are done. Basically, all the pressure in the water and things like that, they progress by using this method, right? So it just like flooding in all the, like the pressure is going in all the directions. But then some other like math involved there, but this is the thing that you're going to see a lot when you're going to be looking into the fluid simulation. So this could be like a basic fluid simulation even. I might call it this way. So, all right, the next step. So I used this as a, I used the white background and green box as a starting texture here. But my original source texture is actually black and white, right? If I use the color thing here, okay, let's just duplicate this color RGB. It's just black and white thing. So I need to convert this one to the same kind of white. Right? Let's do that. Also, I think in the original animation they used the HSL functions. I'm gonna use the HSL functions myself. So it's what it says. It's a function to convert between RGB and the HSL, and the only reason in this case they are being used because you can easily progress through different colors by changing just one value. In RGB, it's a bit more complicated than that. So you can change hue, and then you get all the colors in the world. I mean, not all of them, but yeah. So I will convert this. I also want to add the time here, actually. This will help us. The time is already here, but it's not in here. So it's going to be time 0, and I will update my time in here. This time. Right. So far, so good. No errors. All right. We got the HSL function here. So first of all, I'm gonna create a color, right? I'm gonna gradient. I'm gonna call this gradient, even though it's gonna be just the color, and it's gonna be like HSL to RGB plus the hue. I think this is usually the one that you go with because this gets you the medium bright colors. And let's see what's the color is this actually. So it's kind of teal, right? Is it teal? That's what you call it. But then it's light green in here. So you can see they are not as bright, which is perfect for the watercolor effect. So they shouldn't be really bright. It should be like a little bit faded out. And I could actually do things like this now. And you could see all the colors going through with just one value. Now a bit slower. What do you think about fleet? What kind of fleet? All right, so I have the gradient color. Now I kind of want to convert my black and white ball to the colorful ball, changing the color all the time. So it's going to be here. So the color holds this black and white value. Basically, I only care about color red channel. So I can do the color. Let's say it's going to be a mix between the white and the gradient and the color R. So this way I should get the colorful ball on the white background. I want to debug this. Yeah, so now we get the colorful circle on the white background. So now I can use it in the same way that I used like the initial white render target that I used in here. So I have the watercolor, I have this L color, I don't know how to call it. This is basically how I'm using this black and white texture, right? I'm just converting it to this L color and that's it. So this is why I told you that I might have used actually the white scene myself. So this could have been done as a separate render target. So I could already like render the ball, changing the color on the white background and use it immediately as a texture in here, not actually going through these steps, right? Right, now the final step. So we have the watercolor. Let's try to render the final color, which will be actually the thing using this Klein color. So it's going to be again blend darken. So I'm gonna blend yeah, the watercolor and the L color with 0.5. So this way I'm adding my interactivity to the equation right now. Let's output this final color. So now it's starting to look something like that. I think you might already actually call it something like that. It's already pretty cool. It's not quite there. There are two maybe minor simple steps I'm missing. It doesn't really fade out, so it just stays on the screen, which in some cases could be the intended thing. You could also see like the actual shape that I'm using here. So one way to avoid that is to add a gradient to my scene, right? To actual rendering of that ball. What could be the simplest way to add that gradient? I don't know, maybe rendering how to avoid shader material in here. This is what I'm thinking. So the particle. Just give me the particle texture. Unity. Yes. This. I'm gonna call this one ball, even though it's, I don't know why I call it ball PNG. And when I'm rendering these, like the source scene and this dummy, I could make it plain. It's a mesh basic material, and then I could use texture in here. Will it actually do what I need to do? It's have to be 0.52. Now it's plain. Yeah, you could see it's, well, it's at least I think it's better than it used to be. So now we are like blurring this whole thing. So the way that they did it in the original animation, they actually put another canvas, and in that canvas they actually rendered this trail again. So the way to do this in webgl would be to set up another pipeline where I could leave like the path of my movement and then do this watercolor effect to this path, right? But I could actually, in this case, I could avoid it by slowly moving my mouse, or to just changing the settings a little bit. Just let me try to do this. Oh, I had my whole screen zoomed in a little bit. Sorry. I haven't tried the JetBrains fleet. I don't remember I was answering that, but yeah. So the final step would be to actually fade out the whole scene. So now this means when I'm rendering to the screen, I have to fade it out a little. So I have this final color, but then when I'm actually rendering it to the screen, okay, gotta remove this white space. I believe there are a lot of like ways to do this. I'm mostly following the approach that the guys used in 14 Islands. But yeah, so how do we do this? So we have to fade it all towards white, right? So I'm gonna do here, I need to get the three-dimensional thing. I need the background color in here. I also need the final color in here. And I need to fade it out. So if I just take the minimum out of those, nothing should actually change. It should be still staying on my screen forever. Like all of my interactions should be staying forever. Kind of want to make it the effect more prominent. And where was the size? Where was the size? White scene. It's not the white scene, it's source scene, so maybe 0.3. Yeah. Also, to make it more prominent, I believe I could increase the coefficient that I told you about, like this, let's say. Yeah, it kind of gets the thing done. But to avoid, yeah, but now it fills the whole screen, right? Maybe like that. Well, I think this is it. It's just you can play forever with these coefficients. Anyway, we have to fade out the whole scene. Right now, we are already using like this method, whatever it is. It doesn't change anything. Now, what I want to do here, I want to fade out in the same way that I faded out the flat color in here. So first of all, I'm going to multiply this thing with something greater than 1. So I don't know, let's say same value, or just a little smaller maybe. See what's going to happen. Plus. So now it fades out, although the old ones are not. So maybe I should also add something like small fade out. Okay, maybe the old one doesn't fade out because I don't really need it, the old one, right? This is a static thing that stays on the screen forever. Okay, now it fades out. So it's actually about the value of this thing. Well, I guess this is it, right? So the thing that I did, they actually, this path right now for me is just the like white dot on a screen. But for them, they actually rendered the path on the separate canvas, two-dimensional canvas. And that's why like they had maybe more color flat and thin. Actually, I don't want to fade it out so fast. So maybe we should just stay a little bit with this. What else? What else could we fix in here? Should also reserve more color now. Well, I mean, I guess this is it, right? I think I'm being too much of a perfectionist, right? We already have this flattening effect, and maybe depending on the size of this thing again, like could be much bigger. And changing the color and overlapping, and we kind of get this effect, right? I mean, let's try to compare it a little bit. Yeah, it kind of stays a little longer, but then because they have this path staying behind the trail is staying there. So maybe I can get back to the like not the gradient thing, but actually an actual thing in here. So it's gonna be box sphere geometry 0.2. And not using the texture, not using this. Yeah, I think this is actually better and looking closer to what they originally did. So like painting with these colors. Also, I think we can increase the flooding with the where do I have it? It's gonna flood a lot faster now. Maybe it's nicer. Kind of cool. Also kind of cool how the colors are like bleeding to the a bit of a different gradient colors on like on the edges of this whole thing. The colors are bleeding to the other thing. So I guess this is it, right? This is what I wanted to create in the end. Because you can tweak this thing like forever. It's actually nice to when it stays on one spot and the colors are changing, and it's just yeah, exactly. The previous and this is what they did, right? They created the canvas. So just to explain it, absolutely, they created a two-dimensional canvas, and on each like mouse move event, they create another like white blob. So it's not actually one white blob like I have right now. So they create a lot of like white blobs following the mouse, which are fading out like with time in a separate canvas. So not in WebGL at all. And this is why they have like this more of a trail, because they still have some white dots behind this thing. So right now I don't really have them. But if I move slowly, it's kind of the same effect that they have. If I move fast, maybe it's not quite, because you could see like the steps. Well, with this size, actually, it's hard to see the steps. It's actually really close. Ooh. And talking about the non-white, so the thing here is everything tries to like lerp towards the white. If you have the other background, you would try to lerp towards some other color. And basically, instead of using the blend darken here, so if we have a black background, I think just blend overlay, or just the usual like blending should work, like the maximum basically value would work for the dark background. But for the specific color background, I think you would need to like change these to like lerp. So instead of minimum, it's going to be a mix between the background and towards the white, especially here, right? So here it tries to fade out towards like infinity. Basically, white is infinity in this case. So in your case, it would try to mix it towards the color of the background. Or maybe you could just, I don't know, create this scene on the white background and then just overlay it onto any other background that you have. Could be easier way to create the same effect. So it's about playing with colors then. Either playing with math in here or just finding the right overlay to put it onto the original scene. Guys, I hope you liked that one. And not streaming as often as I used to, but I'm trying to stay in the business, in the business of streaming, because I really love the feedback. I love the interaction between you. So if you put the comments, and every comment is the thing that like drives me, and I'm really thankful for your support. And I'm not even talking about like, I don't know, the Patreon donations and things like that. Just saying the kind words is the thing that helps me to move forward. Right. All right, guys. Thank you for the kind words, and I will be finishing it on this state. Hope you like that one. Take care. I'm trying to take care of myself because I got an injury. I got the meniscus tear right now, so struggling a little bit with the walking, but hopefully it's gonna get better. And well, yeah, take care. Be safe. And don't ever forget, this week, if you love someone, just tell them that you love them. Don't ever forget to do that, because, life is fleeting. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I nailed it, because my perfectionist tried to move even forward. And thank you. Thank you to Ghost to Germany and all over the world to you guys watching me. And have a great week. Take care, and